So you said we saved the worst for last, right?
The best known, at least. It's hard to say well,
who is it?
It's Billy McFarland.
That's the Fyre Festival guy.
That's the Fyre Festival.
We're going to talk about Fyre Festival.
We're going to talk about Fyre Festival. Definitely the highest profile, and while he caused more financial trouble for people, I don't think he meant to do it the way Barry Minkow did.
Right. He also caused quite a bit of heat stroke, didn't he?
Oh God, yeah. Now he did. That's what I was saying. He did cause physical harm to people.
Right. That's what you were talking about.
It wasn't really on purpose, but he did cause some. If I'm going to assume everybody listening to this episode knows about Billy McFarland or the Fyre Festival.
If you haven't, after you watch this episode, I highly advise Internet Historians documentary on the Fyre Festival. Right. So good. So
it's basically this festival music festival called Coachella, mm-hmm. that he came up with, and it was a huge train wreck. They didn't deliver on anything, but we're gonna get into it in just a minute. Sorry, Billy McFarland. Yeah, he was 25 during that Fyre Festival.
Was he?
Ordeal. Very young.
Damn.
But that's not where he really got started. His story really starts with a company.
A credit card company, wasn't it?
Yeah, Magnesis.
Yeah.
And later on, people have said, yeah, this was kind of a scam too. They just didn't realize it at the time, right? So let's talk about Magnesis, because even if you know about Fyre, a lot of people don't know about Magnesis. Magnesis came about because basically Billy was jealous of all these people that had Amex Black cards.
Okay.
Right. Because it's this huge status symbol, this black Amex credit card that, no limit. It means you're uber wealthy if you've got it. Get you into all kind of places that you just can't go otherwise. Right. So he comes up with the black card for millennials, as he calls it. Right. And calls it Magnesis. And, the crazy thing about Magnesis is it's not really a credit card.
It's like a prepaid thing then?
No, it was a card, but you couldn't use it to pay for stuff unless you linked it to a debit card or credit card you already had. So basically you link it to your Capital One card and you run your Magnesis card and you're charging your Capital One.
So it was just like a proxy for payment?
Yeah.
That seems like a terrible idea.
Terrible idea, right? But it really cashed in on FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Yeah, because millennials, we have that in spades.
Yeah.
But there was more to it than just the payment method of having this fancy black card, right? It was supposed to come with a lot of perks with having it. Like they had to pay an annual fee of $250, but they were supposed to get access to members only events and special parties.
A $250 annual fee for millennials?
Yeah.
Holy God.
Well, this is in New York too, so. I mean, it's not like they're not already paying thousands for rent or whatever.
Right.
You don't need that. Anyway,
this is not sounding very attractive thus far.
But the thing is he was advertising these parties he'd have with, really famous people that would come to the party, and you'd be like, they'd perform, but you're, rubbing elbows with these people, mm-hmm. right? Like Rick Ross. He had Rick Ross come to an event for his Magnesis card, right? And this is a big thing because if you get to go to a party with Rick Ross or Ja Rule, who ends up involved with it eventually.
Yeah, I remember Ja Rule's involvement.
Yeah, Ja Rule eventually becomes the face of Magnesis. But I mean, it's a big deal. And he's also, there were some other perks because you're supposed to get special rates on tickets to like concerts and other events too, mm-hmm. like that he would sell through the Magnesis website. If you're a member, you can get that. So think of it as like, it's like being a part of Costco or Sam's Club for, event tickets, right? Get a discount on these things. But, it turns out later on he was selling fake tickets to stuff. They didn't know it at the time, but he sold fake tickets to the Met Gala, to Hamilton, to Coachella. Met Gala? Yeah.
Seems like that'd be pretty easy to catch on to.
I would think so, right? But he was just trying to cash in on it at the time. I don't know how the hell people didn't just like blow up on him, like, wow, that Met Gala tickets, but whatever. Obviously, the Hamilton ones too. Those are like you got a bunch of tickets for Hamilton. At
least it's reasonable to have tickets for Hamilton, though.
Yeah, but I mean, well, you know what though? There were a ton of fraudulent Hamilton tickets at the time, so he could. Oh yeah,
I didn't know that was a racket.
He could have just said, "Oh, I must have gotten a hold of some bad tickets or something." I don't know what excuse he may have had. Fake tickets to Coachella too, though. But this really didn't come out until later, right? Now, like I said, Ja Rule became the spokesperson for Magnesis, and that's really how he got to know Ja. And Ja is very involved with Fyre. I'm sure some of you know. But Billy comes up with the idea for the app Fyre. And he said he came up with it when he was trying to hire Ja Rule to do a Magnesis event.
Okay.
That he had a lot of trouble, figuring out how to hire Ja Rule to do something. And Fyre, before it was ever a festival, was an app that Billy had come up with the idea for. And apparently he and Ja were both involved in this idea. It was a booking app, as Billy described it, to book talent. And this is not like, an app to book a clown or a magician, for Timmy's birthday party, right? It's for the uber wealthy to book Beyonce for Timmy's birthday party, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can book like really big acts on Fyre. That's the selling point. Now, I am not very wealthy. I'm not a millionaire, and I'm, never going to be hiring, like Beyonce or Snoop Dogg or Taylor Swift or somebody to, play an event. But I don't know if I'd be wanting to use just like an app to do it. You'd think there'd be someone you contact to set this stuff up.
Yeah.
I don't know. It may have actually been a pretty good idea. It sounded good anyway, the Fyre app.
Like if I'm going to tell people that Taylor Swift is performing at my event, I want more than just a
confirmation on an app.
Confirmation on an app that I have, right?
Don't you think so? At any rate, though, this is the idea. And the Fyre app seems to take off. It's getting investors. People like the idea of it, and it sounds good on paper, right? I think it does. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think there's some holes in it.
It's so niche. It's hard to say it's a great idea, but it's
an idea.
It's not a terrible idea.
It takes off. You got Ja Rule involved.
It would probably have more utility if it was for the average person.
Yeah,
but I mean, given your small demographic, expected user base, I don't know if it's a great idea, but it's not awful.
I don't know. But anyway, so Billy and Ja, they hang out a lot at this point.
Okay.
And they took a trip to the Bahamas. All right. And this is while they're working on the Fyre project. And while they're in the Bahamas, they visit an island called Norman's Cay. And they just love this island. It's a great place. It's not a very big island. Great beaches. It's a great place. And they come up with the idea this would be the perfect place for a luxury music festival like Coachella. And they come up with this idea to have a festival. Really, it's just to promote their Fyre app is the idea at the time.
Right.
The Fyre Festival, and they inquire, with the owners of the island if they can, lease this island for the festival, and they're planning it for about 6 months out at the time, right? And they're like, yeah, but as it turns out, this island at one point belonged to a high-ranking member of Pablo Escobar's cartel.
Mm-hmm.
And the current owners of the island said, you can use it, but you cannot use the name Pablo Escobar in any of your, promotional material. We don't want to put that out there.
Which they immediately did, right?
That's exactly what they did. So what they do to advertise this is they hire a bunch of supermodels, including Bella Hadid. So you know how expensive she is, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how expensive she is, but I know she's.
Well, hot. I mean, she's. I don't know exactly either, but I know it costs a lot of money to get her down there,
right?
And a lot of other supermodels, and they come down to Norman's Cay and they basically just film them like hanging out on the beach, partying on the island, swimming, stuff like that. You're having a good time. They're filming all these supermodels, and I mean, what better idea to advertise your luxury festival, right? To think these supermodels are going to be hanging out there,
gorgeous women hanging out. Yeah.
Keep my microphone. Now they film all this material, and in their promo material, they talk all about this being Pablo Escobar's island. Right?
Of course they do.
And then they hire a lot of social media influencers to post about the Fyre
Now,
Festival.
this part I remember.
And if it's what they're posting is just like these orange tiles that said Fyre on it, and you just click on it and it'll take you to the website for the Fyre Festival. And it's got all these, you know, the videos of the supermodels. It's got the ticket prices, all these packages and stuff you can buy. And they start selling tickets for it right away. And, you know, about that time, the owners of the island see all this material and they are furious.
Understandably.
Because they don't want the attention about this being Pablo Escobar's island, right?
We had one rule.
Yeah, one rule, and you broke it.
Don't mention the Coke overlord's name, right?
Yeah.
That's all we ask. We don't want to be associated with the drug kingpin.
Yeah, Billy was like, oh, that's the best thing to mention, though.
Right.
People love Pablo Escobar. And
there is kind of a weird cult obsession with him.
Yeah, there is. And anyway, though, so they say you can't use the island anymore. You broke the contract terms. It's done. So they got 4 months left till
find a new
this
island
festival, and they have to find a new location. Keep in mind, read a lot about this, and most experts say a festival of this type takes 18 months to 2 years to plan and execute.
Really?
Yeah, and they're looking at 4 months now, and they don't have the location.
Shit. Well, I guess we now understand why it gets as bad as it does.
Yeah. Now, Billy, he thinks he can pull this off, right?
Of course he does.
You know, like this guy's like go big or go home, right? And he just keeps moving forward. And by the time they find the new location, they've got like 2 months left.
Okay.
You know, they build it as this private island, the Fyre Key, but they end up putting it on a larger island with sandals on it. And this is
what is that?
Sandals is a big chain of resorts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like yeah. So I've never been to one either. Sorry, sir, but I know about it. I've seen it on TV. But it's just like a luxury resort you go to and like go to hang out in these beaches and get spa treatments and junk like that. Right?
Okay. Was it roughly the same size as the original one?
No. This island's quite a bit bigger, and like I said, there's sandals on it, and there's a lot of people that live on this island too,
okay.
right? And so they're actually they're just leasing a part of this, and I think they actually lease it from the Sandals Resort. That was supposed to be like developed into a parking lot at some point, and it just never got done. Right? And it looks nothing like what they've advertised. It's not even on the beach. It's like gravel and there's some pavement and stuff. It just looks like crap.
So it went from island paradise to
old parking lot.
To we paved paradise and literally put up a parking lot.
Yeah,
okay.
It did. Of course, none of the people buying
tickets even get to Counting Crows.
No, they didn't. They didn't even book Counting Crows apparently. But at any rate, they find this place, and the ticket holders, they don't know what this new place looks like, but this is first big red flag here. This place is not a good spot for it.
Right.
But again, it's not going to be possible to do this, right? You have to think, you have to build an infrastructure for this kind of thing.
Like
right?
the logistics alone for planning something like this.
And they're selling private villas on the website, like tickets to the festival, and you stay in like private villas as well, right? So they sold a lot.
Do they at least have access to the things that they're selling?
Oh God, no, they haven't even been built or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were selling general admission tickets at first, and I think it was $1,000.
Just to be clear, he's selling lodging that has yet to be built.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And has 2 months to do it. So again, they sold a bunch of general admission tickets, just general admission to the festival, to the show and stuff. Mm-hmm. And those were going for $1,000. But Billy realized, I can't finance this thing. I can't pay for everything by people just buying $1,000 tickets.
Right.
So suddenly general admission is sold out. Like, who's ever heard of general admission getting sold out before everything else?
Yeah.
Whatever though. And they start selling these packages for your private villas. Right. Okay. And these cost like $25,000 to buy one of these tickets. Right. God. There was one package I saw in one of the documentaries. There's several documentaries about this. That was, over $250,000 for this ticket package. The private villa. It was a larger private villa that several people could stay in, but yeah, $250,000.
Lord.
Yeah.
And again, it didn't exist.
And they have to build all this stuff. And not just that, they need power, they need water. run power and water to all this stuff. You have to build bathroom facilities, and they're building luxury bathrooms, right? For the
turned
event.
out to be a bunch of porta potties.
It did, yeah, it did. Gourmet food. You have to build these kitchens, food venues. You have to build all of that. You know.
I loved how the gourmet food turned out.
Yeah, that was iconic, really, which we'll get into in just a second. And it's not possible, and Billy cannot stop himself. He's got money from investors. He thinks this is going to be the next Coachella. He thinks it's going to be the biggest music festival ever.
So he's just delusional.
He's completely delusional.
So we've got like 2 months until the festival,
and nothing's built.
And he has none of these buildings that he's selling access
no infrastructure.
To. They have no water or electricity.
No. They've booked acts. They've booked some acts, and they apparently hadn't paid them yet. So they're realizing we're not going to get all these private villas built. You know, they've built some. You know, they're working on it. So he finds out he can get a bunch of leftover FEMA tents and big white FEMA tents. And he buys a bunch of these FEMA tents, just sets them all up on the island for housing. Could you imagine paying for a private villa and then getting a FEMA tent? Yeah, like the private villa with air conditioning and everything, with power and water. And
now
then
you've got a FEMA tent.
You get a FEMA tent, yeah.
Where all of your personal belongings are going to get stolen.
Yep. And, yeah,
I cannot imagine how furious people had to have been, dude.
Again, they were just bringing in porta potties for their luxury bathrooms. I don't even know if they ever built any shower facilities. I don't know if that happened or not.
I think showering was probably the least of some of these people's worries.
It's not like they stayed very long when it got started.
Well, my understanding is some of them stayed a hell of a lot longer than they intended to.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. But here's the big problem with this. Billy still can't pay for everything, even though people are buying tickets hand over fist. He can't afford to finance this festival. So he's begging for new investors. He's taking out loans, doing everything he can to get money to just get this all set up, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not going too well. He starts overvaluing the Fyre app, trying to get more investors, saying that it's doing, like millions of dollars in bookings, and really it's only done like 57,000.
Okay.
Which there's fraud right there. That's a huge lie. He's also was lying about how much he was worth personally. Like he was creating documents showing that he had all these Facebook shares and all these other investments, and he didn't have that. He wasn't worth anything like that. So it gave these people a really false sense of security. They're investing.
So he was doing all this just in a panic, trying to get the necessary funds to pull this off.
Because clock's a ticking.
Yeah. How much time does he have at this point?
Well, it's hard to say because this is happening over the 2 months, right?
So he has at most 2 months at this point.
Yeah, it's not even that much at this point. He's panicking. He can't pay for it. He can't pay the workers that are building stuff. He can't pay his own employees. I don't know how you're supposed to make a profit on this when you can't even set up the festival for the money that everybody's paying to come to it.
Right. It seems like the money that's coming in is still not enough to cover the expenses.
Right.
He's losing money.
So he comes up with another idea to get some cash flow. And this isn't just completely out of the realm of possibility because other festivals do this. I think Coachella does it. Mm-hmm. Basically, he sent an email that everyone's going to use an armband to pay for things.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's going to be a cashless festival. And he wants them all to deposit money into their armband account, their Fyre band account, so they'll have plenty of money to spend at the festival.
Right.
And he said he was suggesting $300 per day of the festival to spend.
Wow. Big spender.
I mean,
how much money does he think the average person has?
Well, people that can buy these tickets.
Like, how much were the cheaper ones?
$1,000 for the cheapest tickets.
I mean,
and most people pay at least $25,000 to go.
Jesus. Okay.
So
maybe the demographics here is different than the people I'm used to dealing with.
Right. Well, I mean, it's all rich people that go to Coachella, right? I don't know how much they pay for food and stuff at Coachella, and people want to stay hammered all day, I imagine, buy a lot of alcohol, but $300, my God. At any rate, so then people start charging up these bands, depositing money on their band accounts, and still not enough money to pay for everything, right? It's insane. Billy cannot pay for any of this stuff. He still to this day has workers that have been paid.
How is he making anything off the band accounts? Is he taking a percentage?
No, not taking a percentage, but he's basically just getting the money, and it's just cash flow for him when they deposit the money.
Wait, I thought it was on their bands though.
Well, it is, and it's still technically they have whatever money in that account they can use on food at the festival and stuff. Like, I mean, the festival owns all the food stuff and everything, right?
Okay, okay, I get it now.
But it's just cash flow for Billy when they deposit the money. He's got all this money to, you know, he's actually paying lenders at this point too, like because he took out basically like a payday loan for $3 million.
I didn't realize that the whole band idea was just another desperate attempt to raise cash for. I thought it was just like a stupid gimmick that they came up with.
Well, like I said, there are other big festivals that use the bands. They want you to go cashless. I mean, you don't want to carry cash.
I understand the temptation, right?
But at any rate, he still can't pay for everything. And it's time for the festival at this point. And this stuff's not ready. They got some tents, you know, they got a couple places to get food.
Cheese and crackers.
It was cheese sandwiches.
Oh, was it cheese sandwiches? I'm sorry.
They've got tons of liquor, but they didn't.
So these people are now starting to pour into this Knot Island.
Well, yeah.
A tropical resort.
Yes. And the night before, Blink-182 drops out. The night before the festival's supposed to start because they haven't been paid. None of these acts have been paid.
Jesus.
And Blink-182
did they publicly say that when they dropped out, that they hadn't been paid yet?
I don't think they announced why, but I think all the other bands knew that they hadn't been paid either when Blink-182 dropped out, and then other bands started dropping out too.
Started a cascading effect.
Yeah. I don't think any of the bands ever actually tried to come to the island even because once Blink-182 dropped out when they hadn't been paid anything.
You would think if you want a music festival, that'd be like the first thing you pay, the music.
You would think so, but when you don't have a stage for them to play on, what are you going to do? Right?
Hadn't even built the stage yet?
Well, I'm not saying they hadn't, but they had to build the stage, right? I mean, they probably built the stage. I don't know. They never got to the point of trying to listen to any music. So at any rate, the night before also, Blink-182 drops out, and there comes this huge downpour, right? Just an insane storm.
Okay.
Soaks these tents. Soaks everything inside the tents.
This is before the people show up?
Before the people show up. It's not even livable anymore, right? Like you can't nobody want to stay in this. I mean,
it's just like one final slap from God.
Like honestly, like at this point, like homeless people in LA will be like, I can find something better. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like this is soaked. I don't want to stay in this. And people start pouring in, right? They fly into Miami. And from Miami, they're supposed to catch these little private jets, luxury jets, to take them over to the island.
And to be clear, at this point, there's no public inkling that this is not working out, right?
Not yet. Not yet.
They all still believe that this is going to be this glorious...
best thing ever.
Right.
Best thing ever. So they're supposed to get on these private luxury jets and fly over, but they're instead these big planes that are all economy class that fly them from Miami to the airport on
Was that their first inkling?
That's the first hint. Something's wrong. And then they stick them all on these old school buses and drive them out to the festival site.
Rock 2.
And then they pull up and they see this big gravel lot, no beach, FEMA tents everywhere. You can see the FEMA logos on the tents. And these kids are panicking at this point. One of the documentaries was talking about how like people on the bus just burst out into tears when they saw the site for the festival.
I've seen some videos of people panicking. It's sad, but it's also kind of funny, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and
I hate laughing at people's misery, but sometimes people's misery is...
Well, we're not the only ones. I mean, like
funny.
Every late night show, every radio station, everyone's making fun of this at the time, you know?
Right.
And they get there and they don't even have a system for people to find their tents and their villas or anything. And they're just standing in line. They just make lines because they don't know what to do.
So people are just wandering around, like picking whatever tent they can find.
Well, not yet, until Billy gets up on a table and says, everybody just go find yourself a tent. And it's chaos at that point. Everybody just tries to find tents. Like people can't find a place to live. You're having to go grab mattresses off big stacks of mattresses.
What about the people? How did he explain this to the people who had paid $20,000 for a private villa?
I don't think he really is doing any explaining at that point. At this point, people are just trying to survive the night, you know. And you know,
it goes from tropical island resort to, I mean, this is almost like last week's episode, man. Except without people murdering each other.
Yeah, and this one really happened.
Yeah, this one really happened.
So this is not April Fool's episode, though you would think it was if you didn't know any better.
You saying Danganronpa's not real, Daniel?
I'm saying, well, in a sense it is. At any rate, though.
Anyway, so these poor people are now flooding into this hellscape they thought was going to be a paradise.
Exactly, a hellscape, right? And it's going all over Instagram now, too. All these, there's tons of influencers there that have a lot of followers, and it's just all over the place. This is hell. We're in hell.
Do you have a list of the promise and then the meager scraps he was able to come up with?
No, I really don't have a list.
So we got FEMA tents for $20,000 villas.
Your gourmet food turns into cheese sandwiches. Like we got to put a picture of the cheese sandwich up.
I will.
Because that was probably the most iconic image of, like, you had the original like orange tile, and then you had the cheese sandwich. That was like the before and after, right? So yeah, it's chaos. People start heading back to the airport, but there's no flights to take them back, right? Because these were charter flights that got them there.
Right.
And they're just like hundreds and hundreds of people just sitting in the airport for hours and hours. They try to get them on flights. They have trouble, with immigration in the U.S. They've got to have paperwork filled out. I mean, it is hours and hours and hours. These people start finally getting back to the U.S., but you have thousands of people still there that are stuck.
So here's the thing. When Billy started welcoming these people into the tents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he actually let these people arrive. He knew at this point that all the music talent had backed out.
Yeah, but at this point, like,
why was he not saying, guys, it's over? Like,
I don't know.
Was he still so delusional that he thought he could pull this off?
I mean, tons of his employees were telling him for like weeks in advance, cancel it now. It's not going to happen. Cancel it. But he's so far in with this, like, if he just can't even have the money to refund the tickets.
Right.
Like he's screwed, Like, he's got all these investors all over him. Like, what are you going to do? And yeah, that's basically what happens with fire fraud. Eventually, they get everybody off the island, but after torturing them for a couple days, and
I mean, by the time they got off the island, they probably needed the FEMA tents. I mean,
right.
Like, it was basically a FEMA situation.
It was. This was. I mean, too bad FEMA wasn't on hand, right?
Needed more than the tents.
Yeah, I mean, they need like the Coast Guard to go out there and rescue these people. Is what they needed to do,
But I cannot wrap my head around this, because he knew.
He knew.
He's picking these people up in rusty buses, knowing that it's over, right? Like, we have no music, we have no food, we have no infrastructure. Like, you would think at this point he would be like, look, I'm screwed, but at least I can tell these people not to come to this hellhole.
Yeah, in the like torrential rainfall the night before, you think is a sign from God.
Right.
Stop it now, Bill. Yeah. Stop it now.
And this was before people even boarded planes to get there, right? Mm-hmm. So he could have stopped it.
Well, they may have boarded planes to Miami, but they had not left Miami at that point. They didn't.
Can you imagine how furious you would be if you'd already gotten to Miami and then?
Oh, that'd be terrible. And another thing to complicate that, I said there's a Sandals on that island, right? And there are hotels on the island, but this is the same week as their like big regatta on that island, mm-hmm. which is huge there. So there's not a hotel room available anywhere.
So even people with the money couldn't just get a room.
They couldn't go get a room.
Oh. And I'm sure a lot of people there just did not have the money to go get a room.
No, it's after you spent $25,000
on a private villa,
and then put $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 on your band. I mean, you want to have any more money?
I mean, at least he didn't do something shameless, like put like a sign over the FEMA that said private villa or something.
They probably would have if they had time. Probably would have covered it up with a Fyre logo or something.
Right.
But yeah, there's a story of it, and so
what I don't remember, he ended up going to prison for this.
Yeah, and he's still in jail. In 2018 he pled guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud for this, and he was sentenced to 6 years. All they could get him on? Well, the fraud happened in the U.S., but like you have to understand, the festival was not in the United States.
Right.
It was in the Bahamas.
Okay.
Now, I think he's basically banned from ever going to the Bahamas again for the rest of his life.
That seems reasonable.
But yeah, he was sentenced 6 years in prison. He's still in there. As far as I know, he still has dreams of running another business. I mean, before he went to jail, he was planning on, the next Fyre Festival.
Wait, he was already planning number 2?
Yeah. He literally said in an interview, V1 has failed. No, Fyre has failed. Fyre is over, Billy. It's over.
He really thought it was going to be a good idea to put that brand name out there again.
Yeah.
Like the name that is synonymous with the worst flop in history of a music festival. He thought he was just going to put a 2 next to that and everything was going to be okay.
That's what he thought, I guess. I mean, after you torture all these people that come to your festival, they're still owed money for the tickets. They're still workers he didn't pay. They're like local day laborers he never paid, contractors he never paid.
You know, the one bright side I can say, you know, it's not much for poor Billy, but one thing we can say is even after all this, it's still not nearly as vile as that, I forget what it was called, but that furry convention that went awry.
Oh my God. Let's not even... That is not in the scope of our podcast, sir.
I wouldn't even look it up.
Yeah. I do need to mention something. I feel ridiculous.
Oh, it was Rainforest.
Don't even mention it. You're going to mess up our algorithm talking about that junk. Let me get back to this. I feel ridiculous because I said, yeah, he pled guilty to wire fraud.
Right.
But I never explained what he was doing wire fraud with. I forgot. Basically, like vendors and stuff he owed money to, he was sending them confirmation sheets that he was wiring them money, but he never wired it. Right. And like he would mysteriously cut off the confirmation number, on the sheet he sent them. But that's what he did. He was faking wire fraud. Okay. So that's what we were able to get him on. But yeah. Though I gotta say, man, like at least with Billy McFarland, I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to defraud anyone else because unless he changes his name and gets plastic surgery so he looks completely different, like everyone knows about Billy McFarland.
No, the thing is, at least with him, like what sets him a little apart from the other ones is that I think this probably started out as a legitimate venture.
No, I think it did.
This is like something he got in over his head and just started committing fraud after fraud to keep it afloat. Yeah,
he bit off more than he could chew, but you have to understand he did sell fake tickets with Magnesis before this. So,
that's true, yeah.
So he was doing this before.
That's true.
But I don't think he meant for this to, I think he meant for this to be a big thing, to be real, to make the profits on it. But what I just still don't understand is how did he think he was ever going to make any money on it when you've sold all these tickets, you still can't pay for what you need to pay for to get the festival going. You can't pay the bands. You can't pay your workers.
I mean, I think by the time he figured that out, they were screwed.
I guess they were, but I don't know, man. I don't know what the guy was thinking. I guess he was just in so far over his head, he didn't know what to do.
Poor planning all the way around, it seems like.
I thought you were about to say poor Billy.
No, not going to say that at all.
Poor festival attendees, poor people that worked for Billy.
Yeah.
I hate to say poor investors because, you know, I mean, they're uber wealthy anyway. I mean, I hate that they lost their money, but, you know,
it's not nearly as bad as for the average ticket buyer, though.
No, it's not nearly as bad as someone that paid $25,000 to go get a private villa and then they're
FEMA tent.
Stuck in a FEMA tent, which turns into like Lord of the Flies once they get there, you know.
If you enjoyed this segment from the Fact and Suspicion podcast and want to hear more, you can find the full episode here on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.